Hey, what's up everybody? How you guys doing? We got a cool little patch here for the Smite birthday. I guess it's the anniversary of Smite. I didn't even realize it was coming up. I feel like they would usually hype that up more and do more for it, but there's like a little bundle you can get. Overall, there are a lot of exciting little changes that I didn't expect, and I don't think a lot of people saw coming. A lot of nice little god balance things here and there that I guess, you know, were definitely overdue, so I'm happy that they did them. But let's get into it. They released the next Ratatosker skin, and then the final evolution as well, or, you know, the final form, whatever it is. It looks cool, the in-game models of them. I feel like they could have done better, like, based on the concept art and the, you know, these card artworks. I think the in-game models could have done a lot better. They look a little bit like, I don't know, they look a little underwhelming to me, and just, like, maybe a little rushed, but... oh well, I mean, some of you guys like them, and some of you don't, so that's skins. And that's all the skins, so yeah, there you go. Alright, so Revenant Achilles looks pretty cool. While it is a Chuck skin, it's got the skull, it's got a purpley kind of, you know, death. I like purple, but, you know, not so much the death part. But, you know, he's got skulls everywhere, on his shield, on his staff, on, you know, his spear, on his freaking, what are these? Greaves, on his greaves, right? And yeah, but other than that, though, it's actually probably one of the coolest Chuck skins, where it's actually got nice animations. The overall artwork for it looks really cool. I like that they added something to the shirtless form where he's got something unique about the skin. They're going to have to do that with all of them pretty much. So yeah, pretty interesting skin, and I think it's a cool one that most people should definitely get. This Neith skin, I keep thinking it's a Bastet skin. She looks, because she's got the ears, and, you know, like Smite, you know, character models like so often, especially for the female characters so often. But yeah, it's another one of those EDM skins. I'm not too big a fan, but I know a lot of people are, so hopefully you guys like that one. Beaky Chibi Thoth skin. Chibi Thoth skin finally comes out. They teased it for a little while, and it looks great. I love the animations for it. I'm a big fan of the Chibi ones. I didn't think I would be. I thought they were just going to be like cheap little money grabs, but they ended up being really cool. So yeah, props to them for putting some, like, you know, heart into these skins. Pixel Beast Kernunos. It's got cool animations, I'll be honest. And then it's got a Minecraft ult, which is, some people are saying is going to be like, you know, what's it called? In trouble because of the copyright problems. But I don't know. I don't know how loose this, you know, this pixelated square pig is. But we'll find out, I guess. But yeah, I'm kind of sick of the pixel skins. There's so many of them. I know they like keeping with the same theme, but I think they should rethink that. I think that going with the theme and just making a bunch of gods to the same, you know, tune with the skin theme is just kind of lazy, and it ends up just kind of filling up spots that could have been something unique. This one's pretty cool. I mean, the effects, everything are nicer. I kind of like the look of it overall. It's not like one of my favorite skins, but I think it's another one that's pretty nice for Hou here. And you might not even realize it's Hou at first look. So, you know, it means that they did quite a bit with the skin for him, with changing the you know, the model and everything, and just the way he looks overall. So it's pretty nice. Skins overall this time, I'd give him like a 7 out of 10. Should be Thoth carries. So the birthday event, you pay 900 gems, but it's 25% off the first day. And you get the Neith, you get the Achilles, you get an Enigma chest, you get EDM music theme, a loading frame, and I don't know what the birthday present is. Oh, I guess it's a avatar. Oh, never mind. You quest to unlock an awesome chest using the birthday. Okay, so you use the birthday present to unlock an awesome chest. If you do a quest. I don't know. Confusing. I didn't hear that part when I was watching the patch now. Alright, new achievements, some emote fixes, onto item balance. Blink unfortunately gets a nerf, which sucks a little bit for Duel because it's not a high-performing relic in Duel as it is in Conquest. It's something that I like to pick up a lot as like a luxury item. On certain gods, I find it really good, and especially against certain gods. Either gods that like are always running away from you, like a Loki, or like a Thoth or Vulcan. I go Blink against a lot, and it works out very well. But now it's got a 120-second cooldown on it, unfortunately, instead of that 100, and that's at both ranks. So just a little bit of a cooldown increase. It doesn't change too much. You know, it might make me rethink picking up the item. every now and then, but it's kind of the kind of relic that, you know, I only went when I would like felt like it anyway, and I think that's the same way for most people. It's like, if you're feeling like going blink this game, you feel like you got this for the most part, you know, fuck it, go the blink. Or if like you're behind and you're just like, all right, I need to get back into this, let's motivate myself, hit him with the blink. It shouldn't really change that too much. It's kind of the same, in the same spot, in my opinion. It's slightly worse off. Oracle Chalice went up to 400 gold. Not really too relevant for Duel. I saw some people making use of this. I always considered it at the late game, but a lot of times, you know, you have your pots like constantly going. You have your Chalice still, and then you're getting your 400 pot like a bunch of times. So it would be kind of annoying having it there as that firm place, but at the same time you can just pop the 400 pot. So you know what, I think this was kind of underused and might even still be underused in Duel. Maybe you could still get this. The problem is that gold is never really an issue at the end of Duel, so you can just keep buying your own wards. But maybe it'd be even more convenient to just have this on hand and ward up like crazy at the end of the game when it comes to Titan sieging potential and stuff like that, and Bull Demon. I think that it's definitely a potential relic, or a potentially overlooked item. Gauntlet of Thebes, and you know, that's despite the cost increase, because again, like I said, if you're getting at the late game or the end game, it doesn't matter. Gauntlet of Thebes gains 5 stacks for a god or kill assist. Nothing too relevant again for Duel. It's all about stacking this item. It's about team fights and, you know, supportiness that you're not going to be doing. They increased the price of Emerald Talisman to 1400 from 1200. And then they decrease the passive of the HP per second that you get from 0.25 to 0.2. And it's actually leading into a nerf for Stone of Gaia as well, where they up this item by another 150 and decrease the passive from 0.4% of your HP to 0.3%. So it got quite a little bit of a nerf. It was apparently a very overused item in other game modes, and again in Duel didn't have that much of a place. Had some specific usages. A lot of people would suggest I use it. If you guys know me and watch me, I never use it. I just never fucked with it because I didn't feel it. Some items I'm just like, I know this is so situational and maybe it could be a little bit better than what I'm picking up, but I just don't, I'm too stubborn sometimes. But now it seems like, definitely even less of a value. The reason I don't really like it is because you don't really need the HP, per second kind of thing. I don't really see how that's too relevant in Duel with, lack of, late game sustain and things like that being necessary. Heartseeker is another item that never made it too big in Duel. Some people pick it up. And it went back and forth. At some points it was super OP and you'd pick it up all the time then, but then it quickly got nerfed, and now it got nerfed again actually from 100% of your physical power to 80% of your physical power proccing off of this item. And the thing is with that passive right there, the percentage of your physical power is why it's not picked up in Duel. If anybody wondered why Heartseeker was not something that we picked up very often in Duel, it's because you're not getting as much power in Duel as you are in other game modes. A lot of the time as an assassin you're going like double defense, and if you're not going that much power already, then it's not really worth going into something that's based off of your overall power, right? Because you're not going to get as strong of a proc off of this item, so it doesn't make as much sense. At least that's the the way that I've always looked at it. Rod, I got surprised for a second. I thought I missed a change to Rod, but it's just a bug or issue for passive abilities, apparently. Actually sounds kind of relevant, but alright. Sounds like it's going to be all good now. They increased magical power on Doomorph 60 to 70. Nice little bump up for the item. Still nothing I think that's too relevant for Duel. If you're going to go into anything, the Warlocks, or even the Thoth, I feel like it's just stronger, or of course just going for the early game spikes with your Bancrofts and any other option really. But I could be overlooking it. Now Soul Reaver is an interesting one. It went down by 100 and it went up 10 power. The problem with this item for Duel is that you don't really get to choose, when to proc it, and so much of the late game fights get to be poke fests. So like you do one, say you're like playing Thoth and you hit somebody with your, your ranged one from extremely far away, and it procs the Soul Reaver, you don't really have the option to, to engage off of that, because the enemy, for the most part, if they're playing a higher tier, has good escapes. They can like jump over a wall, they can just run away, and now that Soul Reaver proc is gone. It's not something that you can really rely on because it has such a long cooldown. I forget what the total cooldown of this item, but it makes it pretty unreliable because it's not something that you can constantly cycle through in the fights. It's more of just like, it's not that the enemy can see it coming, and you can, you know, catch them unaware in the middle of a fight with it, sometimes when they've already used their escape or something. But yeah, it's just a little bit of like too much of a signal that, you know, okay, it's time to go all in, and it allows the enemy to just dip. Kind of like sundering really early in a team fight, or, you know, really early in a one-on-one. Like if you sunder, tier 2 sunder somebody that early, they can just dip and they're like, okay, I got your sunder for free. Figure the same kind of way, yeah, it's the same kind of way I approach Soul Reaver. Enchanted Ring, they increased the power from 30 to 45. They've wanted to increase power for magical power items, it seems like, or actually that's what they were talking about pretty much the whole patch show. That they felt like the utility items were adjusted and everything, and now they wanted to add more power again to a lot of these other types of items to provide a different kind of build for mages that wanted to go more glass cannon. Shamans increased cost from 2300 to 2400, and then they also, however, they also increased the magical power from 80 to 100. So that's a nice little increase. 20 power for 100 gold, I'll take that, and maybe start to look into this item more. It's not really an item that I have honestly invested much time or thought into. I don't think it's something that has had too much usage in Duel before, but it could, you know, maybe now. I doubt it. It's just a little bit of power increase. I think the passive still doesn't apply as well as other things like Bancrofts, or not Bancrofts, you know, Demonic. Yes, Demonic's the one I'm thinking of. Demonic and the other things in that tree, like Telkines, we're about to see, and the Hastened Ring. Telkine's Ring, decreased cost from 2800 to 2700, increased passive bonus damage on basic attacks from 10 plus 5% of your magic power to 10 plus 8% of your magic power. Now this is a really big buff to the item, because plus 3% of your magic power to each basic adds up a lot. So it might be a more viable thing to like go on Freya along with Demonic Grip, and maybe even on like Chronos along with Demonic Grip. Maybe pairing this item with Demonic will be even better now. Instead of going for like a pen item like Obsidian Shard and the Demonic, which already, you know, clash a little bit. So that could be an interesting build path. It was something that was more, you know, more open to before, and people were going that more often, Telkines plus Demonic, but we hadn't seen it in a while. But now with that nice little change, I think it could definitely see it again. Finally, Achilles is nerfed. He got quite a huge nerf here with decreased damage on his 1. The Shield of Achilles, I think that's his 1, right? Yeah, I'm sorry, I only played him a couple times, but yeah, his main cone damage down to from 100 down to 80 for the start, which is, you know, quite a nice little nerf. It's 20 off the base, and then it scales poorly, or, you know, poorer up until 300 from 340. So that's overall, those numbers sound really good. For him to be at. Hopefully it's the right place for him without going too low. And then they decrease the stun duration to just 1 second in all ranks. It no longer scales, and it'll just be that flat stun, which is, you know, sounds much nicer for a warrior that brings as much as he did to the table. Combat dodge, they also increase the cooldown of this, so it's going to be harder to get those, you know, it's going to be harder to justify using combat dodge just for the proc of the passive of it, where you get that ranged spear. Instead, you're going to have to use it a little more carefully, or even if you are using it just for that aggressively, you're going to get it less often. So, you know, that's less DPS for you overall. So nice nerfs. They're not as big as I initially said, I'll admit. But I'm hoping that they did just enough to tune him down without making him irrelevant, especially for Duel. He can be an exciting warrior. King of the Eastern Seas on Ao Kuang, they removed invulnerability on him, or untargetable was what it was actually. Ao Kuang couldn't be targeted while he was starting up his ult. I've had situations before where it's happened, where I've like ulted him as Naja as he's using his ult, and he'll cancel mine and still hit me in some bullshit. So hopefully that's what that means, like that those interactions won't happen anymore, and that sounds good to me. But obviously not really a buff or a nerf, just I mean, it's slight nerf, but it's something that wasn't really abused too regularly. Now my boy Apollo gets a So Beautiful buff. Finally, they've realized this guy sucks so badly in the laning phase because his clear is so irrelevant that they upped it to 80 at the base, which is nice. It's, you know, it's, I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have initially, but it also scales up to 320 from 290, so it continues to get more powerful, and I think it'll end up being, or I hope it'll end up being a pretty noticeable impact. Yeah, it scales better in general. The second rank going from 125 to 140, so, you know, the more that you're leveling it, the more you're going to have some pretty reasonably decent damage on it compared to what you had before. So hopefully it does turn out well for Apollo, because, you know, he was one of my favorite gods who was really needed the help. Now Kronos, they actually, if you didn't believe me before that Kronos was still OP, now it really doesn't matter, because he's probably going to be back to ridiculously OP again. Increased basic attack power from 35 to 40. So they said that this is now the strongest basic attacks in the game, at least the strongest mage basic attacks in the game, that is. And he does a shit ton with it. 5 more per auto. It ends up being a lot, you know, as you're going into auto attack builds and stuff like that, and especially for the early game. So that, and they increased the passive on his Time Lord to tick from every 3 minutes now to 5. I'm sorry, every minute it now ticks for 5 power it gives him instead of 3 as it was before, going up from 75 to 125 at a 50-minute game. So you fight him in a 50-minute game, he's going to get 125 power. It's pretty crazy. But what this does overall is gives him more power even in shorter games, like in Duel, which is definitely going to be helpful for him. Yeah, he's going to be monstrous. He definitely will and still is, but I think he's just very underutilized. Now they increased the stun for Fafnir so that he could set up better for his ult finally, because I don't understand why it was just 1 second before. I guess they had nerfed it. I don't know if it was if it had scaled before, but yeah. But in turn, they also decreased the healing he gets for his 2 a little bit, and they decreased the healing scaling as well by 10%. Now here's one that I never saw coming. Hebo nerf. From a Conquest perspective, you know, that they're looking at this, same way they look at everything from a Conquest perspective. I never saw this coming. I didn't imagine them nerfing Hebo ever, because I don't see him ever in competitive. You don't really see him in ranked. Maybe this season he's been used more in ranked. I haven't seen it because I haven't been looking at ranked Conquest since Season 5 launched really at all. So I don't know, maybe he's been being picked up more. I would assume so. And they removed 10% of the scaling on Water Spout, and they increased cooldown from Atlas of the Yellow River from 10 to 12 seconds. That thing will now not always be up. You know, it's only 2 seconds, but it still means a little bit in the span of a fight, especially in Duel 1v1 opportunity, where you can try to make sure that you catch him for that little bit of cooldown that he'll have on the ability. Of course, he's going to get the cooldown reduction on the ability and everything as the game goes on, but so the window will become smaller and smaller, but you absolutely will have more of a window now. So that's great. And just the 10% scaling down isn't as much, but you know, it's an ability that can like near one-shot you at the end of the game. You know, that's why they say he has 4 ults, or 3 ults, you know, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think 4 ults, because Atlas itself is so ridiculous. The move speeds you up, slows them down, gives you slow immunity, and is up all the goddamn time. Alright, so Kumbhakarna gets a little buff, which is nice. They decreased the cooldown for from 15 to 13 seconds on the throwback, so he'll be able to use that more often through the fight and to be able to travel around the Conquest map. Groggy Strike, they increased the damage a little bit, which is great because it was such a long windup for not that much payoff. Nemesis, they nerfed, huge nerfs to her. Decreased Nemesis self-buff duration from 8 seconds to 5 seconds, cutting off a whole 3 seconds of that ability, almost halving it. And then they increased the cooldown on it from lowering as you level it to just 90 seconds at all ranks. So big nerf to the ultimate there, and that's going to have a huge impact in Duel as well. So it's great because she had been really kind of overperforming right now, especially with Warriors. Oh my god, I'm having the hiccups, man. Especially the Warrior's Blessing being so strong. Now, the Nudas of the world are going to be happy with this one. New Wa has gotten a ton of changes and buffs. Mysterious Fog, mana cost gone down. Decrease the time that New Wa is revealed in the fog from 3 seconds to 1 second. So now she can hit you with shiny metal and then turn back into the stealth within a second time period instead of that long 3-second window that she'd have of being revealed. So that's really good for her. It makes her stealth a lot more relevant, as before it really didn't do much for her at all if she had to attack during it. And then clay soldiers, they increase their movement speed by 15, so they're going to be, you know, gunning it at you. They're already terrifying sometimes, because I feel like they got to you so quickly already with the way that you can, like, you know, sick them on an opponent, and now they're going to be even faster, so that's some scary shit. Shining Metal itself as well decreased the mana cost from 60 to 50, allowing her to use it a lot more in the early game, while, you know, the mana is more relevant. And then increased magical power scaling by 10% on that as well. And if that wasn't enough, they also allowed fire shards to pass through player deployables while lifting off. Now, the fact that they said while only lifting off is what's really strange to me, because she's coming down from the sky. Shouldn't she be able to land wherever? I don't really get that, but because that's the logic they applied to her being able to now pass through player-made deployables while lifting off. Why would it not apply the same to coming down from the sky? It doesn't really make sense. But basically, you can get out of Odin Cage and shit. It's not as, you know, relevant for Duel, but like if a Ymir... No, because the Ymir would wall you on landing anyway, so I guess you can't pass through it on the landing. So I don't think that part matters too much, but these are really good changes and will affect her performance in Duel for sure. Now, finishing it up with Ra and Thoth, I think those are the last ones. Increased movement speed for the boy himself by 5. Nice little change for him. Hopefully, you know, he's able to escape some more dire situations with that. You know, that's really what it is about Ra. He doesn't have an escape, so they try to focus on making his speed relevant enough that he can get out of tricky situations. Increased magical power scaling by 10% on Celestial Beam, so he's going to be hitting a little bit harder on that, which is great for him. You know, he definitely needs an update on the power portion, because he's not hitting for that hard compared to the other mages. I was right, Thoth's the last one. So Thoth finally gets a nerf, actually. He's been seeing a lot of play in this season of Duel, especially in EU and stuff. I think a lot of people have been overrating this guy a tiny bit, but at the same time, I still think he's like a maybe top 10, no, not 10, but top like 12 contender. All right, he's a top contender and a top mage contender for Duel, at the very least, you can say at this point, and he is very frustrating to fight. So they decreased the magical penetration per stack from 4 to 3, total change from 20 to 15, so less penetration per stack on his, what is it, Dead Reckoning is his 1? I guess this is his 1. I've never actually looked at his moves, but it has to be his 1, because the glyph is his 3. Yeah, it has to be. So yeah, a little bit less penetration on that is really good. Alright, and then Glyph of Pain, decreased magical power scaling bonus on both the ability and basic attack trigger from 10% to 5%. Adjusted description, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that goes down a nice little 5% as well from each time he uses the glyph. So that's actually super relevant as well, even though it's 5%, you know, that's each time he uses it, so they halved it, and that's going to see a lot of, you know, a lot of change for him. So overall, nice nerfs for Thoth. I think everybody, I think Hyris covered it extremely well here in a way that actually, you know, completely unintentionally covered Duel very well. First time in a while that I've seen a patch where I've been happy with every single god change from the Duel perspective. So awesome. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you next time.